Hi everyone, I'm Citizen Spokeswoman Ruth Wasserman Lande. It is July 29th, 2024. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. We are live on Instagram, on X, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, and available afterwards wherever you can get your podcasts. Please start submitting questions in the chat, like and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. Today is day 297 of the October 7th war and the Hamas hostage crisis. 2 days ago, Hezbollah murdered 12 children with an Iranian rocket. Now, Hezbollah is threatening the Jewish state with genocide. A Hezbollah member of Lebanon's parliament, yes, that's how embedded they are within Lebanon, announced it on a Hezbollah-run news site. If Israel takes large-scale military action, they said, in Lebanon, it will come to an end. Translation: Iran's proxy army in Lebanon is saying it has a right to massacre Israeli children with impunity, and if Israel defends its own people, then Hezbollah will try to murder us all. Hezbollah has 200,000 Iranian terror rockets aimed at our homes in Israel. Iran's proxy army in Lebanon is more powerful than most military in NATO. And as Hezbollah has shown repeatedly, they will use those rockets to murder innocent civilians. Hezbollah is already at war with Israel. It declared war on October 8th in solidarity with Hamas rapists and death squads. Hamas attacked from the south, and the next day, Hezbollah attacked from the north. The terror organization has launched 6,500 rocket missiles and drones from Lebanon into Israel. 60,000 people in Israel have been forced to flee their homes. And these are the homes that Hezbollah is bombing all along the border. There have been refugees in their own country for 10 months in Israel. People in Israel have stockpiled food and had been told to prepare for possible weeks with no electricity. We're tough, and we can manage if that's what it takes to be safe. But we in Israel will not accept Hezbollah's twisted logic that it's allowed to attack Israelis and Israelis are not allowed to defend themselves. Israel does not want an all-out war with Iran's proxy army. But Israel needs to send a clear message that nobody gets to murder our people and get away with this. Those calling for a de-escalation from Israel rather than from the Hezbollah are actually part of the problem. If Israel shows weakness, Hezbollah will respond with more force. Hezbollah thinks it can get away with killing Israelis because the world will tell Israel to turn the other cheek. Friends, that is its insurance policy to keep up its aggression. We reject Hezbollah's threat of genocide on behalf of their warlord patrons in the Islamic Republic of Iran, who is actually waging a war against Israel on 7 different fronts. Hezbollah must back off, or Israel will have to push it away. Israel will do whatever it needs to in order to protect all of its people. And either Hezbollah will back off and end its war on the Jewish state, or else Israel will use its force to end the war and allow our people to return to their homes. Do you know what I found nearly as horrifying as Hezbollah's soccer massacre of children? How parts of the international media tried to justify that unprovoked murder of innocents and even to hide it from their audiences. Many headlines simply ignored who fired the rockets. Others didn't mention who was being fired at or where Majd al-Shams was. Some who did remember to mention Israel focused on occupation, as if Hezbollah murdering Arabic-speaking Druze children, or any children for that matter, is somehow related to or justified by the Assad regime's real estate claims. How absurd. The BBC's headline read, 11 dead in rocket attack on Israeli-occupied Golan. A pro-Israel personality edited it in social media in a post to what it should have been. 12 murdered by Hezbollah rocket attack on Israeli children playing soccer. The post went viral and was shared by major media personalities like Sacha Baron Cohen, for example. Maybe some of the BBC's audiences noticed. That's truly awful. That it just, the cynicism of those who deny moral indignation to innocence, like the 12 Druze children, not to mention countless Jewish victims when it comes and when it doesn't fit the narrative. The real problem is that Western audiences are left completely unaware and in the dark of the danger known to people here in Israel and known to people across the Arab world, that the Islamic Republic of Iran and its proxy armies are a threat to all of us and to the West too. The Islamic Republic of Iran is responsible for the slaughter of thousands across the Arab world, including their own people. When BBC and co ignore that Iran's proxy army in Lebanon, Hezbollah, is destroying that country and is trying to destroy Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and Druze people in Israel, they also miss Iran's broader threat, that the West is next. In fact, the radical Islamic threat is already in Europe, in the United States of America, and elsewhere. Stand with Israel and the Arab world before the Islamic Republic of Iran comes for you. Now let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Our first question today comes from Yelena on X, who asks, how are the people in Lebanon responding to Hezbollah murdering 12 Druze children? What about the Druze community in Lebanon? What about the Druze in Syria and Jordan?
So Yelena, thank you very much for that question. It's a very, very good one. Israel has a Druze community, many of whom, the majority of whom serve in the IDF. Likewise, Lebanon and Syria have very big Druze communities, and they're not happy. There are already some demonstrations within Lebanon against the Hezbollah, not huge ones yet because there are restrictions, but they had begun. And that is exactly the reason why the Hezbollah first hurried to take responsibility for the actual shooting and the killing, the massacre of those children. But as soon as they understood the PR disaster and the fact that these Druze children, because they were massacred, there will be a backlash from the population, the Druze population within Lebanon, they quickly stepped back, very unusual for Hezbollah, and they said that it was Israel's fault, which of course is completely untrue and a lie.
Sammy on YouTube Live asks, some airlines are cancelling flights due to fears of war with Lebanon. Is this causing some panic? Is this necessary in your opinion?
So, Sammy, I can ask you a question in return. If a country was bombarding your people, causing massacre to innocent civilians, and there is no argument that 12 Druze children or any children in the north of Israel playing soccer, simply murdered, killed, massacred, are completely innocent and should not be put in the line of fire, that your country or your government would not respond, would not do everything, by the way, like the Druze community in the north of Israel is demonstrating for, requiring from the Israeli government, in fact, demanding that very severe action be taken, not only on their behalf, but on behalf of all Israeli civilians against those perpetrators, sitting in Lebanon and basically hijacking Lebanon. And this is the Hezbollah terror organization on behalf of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Would you agree to your government sitting back, de-escalating, and not doing anything to protect you and your family? It just doesn't make any sense.
Next question comes from Naomi on Instagram, who asks, how does Israel see an end to all of this? It's not realistic to disarm all of Iran's proxy armies. We need other countries to help, but who will?
Wow, that's an excellent question. And this is exactly the issue. The world needs to wake up to the real threat. And the threat is radical Islam, not all Islam. Radicalism in Islam from the Shiite, Iranian-led camp and the Muslim Brotherhood, Sunni radical Islam by Erdogan's Turkey, by Qatar, and by other factors. Radical Islam, the dream thereof is to establish a radical Islamic caliphate. The Shiite want it to be Shiite, the Sunnis want it to be Sunni. But in actual fact, what they want is world domination, not the domination of the region, not the domination only of whether it's Iran, Sunni Arab countries, or vice versa, but the entire world. And they say it openly in Arabic often, or in Farsi. They speak about domination in Europe. They speak openly about occupying and taking over Rome, Jerusalem and Rome particularly. They speak about coming in and infiltrating, and they do that. Campuses in the United States of America, universities, schools, think tanks, and so on and so forth. There are cells, either by Hezbollah or Muslim Brotherhood, already in place in the West. This is part of a bigger plan. And the way that it will come to an end is an understanding, an education of the masses, of the publics, to really and truly understand what is at play. It's not about Israel. It's not about Gaza. It's not about Lebanon. It's not about Jewish people. It's about the wish and the striving of radical Islam to take over the world and establish a worldwide Islamic radical caliphate. And by the way, Arab countries understand that pretty well. For example, the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia. Anybody who is radical there and raises their heads is thrown into jail or thrown out of the country without any questions asked, because they understand the inherent threat therein.
Next question comes from Talia on Instagram, who asks, the Washington Post used a picture of the Druze children that were killed with the headline, Israel attacks Lebanon. How can we combat this?
Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable, unbelievable, and once more, unbelievable. You know, Druze, this population within the country that allows religious freedom, is part and parcel of the Israeli population. We are nothing less, the Jews and the Druze and other citizens of the state of Israel, brothers and sisters. We are part of the same family. Israel did not attack Lebanon. On October 6th, there was no war, either with Lebanon or with the Gaza Strip. In fact, when on October 7th, Israeli civilians were heinously attacked, raped, murdered, massacred in the south of Israel, a few hours later, you had Hezbollah throwing rockets, firing at Israel's north. That is why 60,000 Israeli civilians from the north of the country are basically displaced in order to keep them safe, because that's what the country does. It tries to keep its civilians safe. And this is absolute insanity that a headline would even innuendo, would even hint that it was Israeli prerogative to attack Lebanon and attack Hezbollah, and that was the retaliation. It is not only angering, but it is disrespect to the audience that reads the newspaper and that actually takes in the news and this disinformation from that media outlet. It is absolutely irresponsible.
Next question comes from Max from LinkedIn, who asks, what's up with Turkey? Has Erdogan lost his mind, or is there a, quote, method to his madness?
So that's brilliant, because he has not lost his mind. His mind has been made up since day one. We just do not listen. We don't want to understand. All of us in the West, normative, more or less, people that are incapable of actually understanding the width and the length of the evil of radical Islam. And that's what he is, radical Islamist belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood. In fact, he is personally a disciple of the Muslim Brotherhood, an organization which is illegal. It's outlawed in Egypt, in Jordan, in the United Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia. It is outlawed. Why? Because it's radical, it's threatening, it is against stability. So he has not lost his mind. He is in the same mind frame since the beginning. Sometimes he appears to be more or less normal because of internal economic reasons. And that's why he tried to enter the European Union. He tried to come closer to Israel at certain points when his economic situation was not so great. But he is what he is, and he is what he was all the time, belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood. That was, that is, and it will continue. This ideology is embedded deeply, and to actually warn and threaten a sovereign country with war, casus belli, just like that, he should be thrown out immediately from NATO, because that is a threat to world stability, nothing less.
And our last question today, a mix of a few questions from our audience members, effectively asking, for those in the diaspora community and around the world, what can we do to help combat the terrible headlines and false reporting that we've seen come out in the last few days?
A lot of stuff. Write op-eds, call your Congress people, call your representatives all day long. Write letters to the media. So not all of them will be accepted, but some of them will. Call people of influence. You have friends. Some people have more influence than others. Influencers in social media, very influential people in the business world, influential people in politics. Speak to your political representatives. Educate masses. It's not easy. Not everybody wants to hear. Believe me, I know. But that's what you can do. We do have the power. People don't know. They don't realize. They don't get the information. Even many of the people who want to support Israel, they are so mixed up with so many facts. Educate people. Give them facts. Try and help them to better understand the situation. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, live at 3 p.m.